A moment comes when your universe experiences an abrupt upheaval, shattering beliefs and understanding you once held dear, as if they were dust beneath your feet. This was my reality, standing rigidly in the hallway, clutching a glass of water so tightly it seemed ready to splinter. I shouldn't have been there, heading towards the kitchen, passing our bedroom. Yet I heard my wife's voice, hushed yet intimate, not meant for me. The man she was referring to no longer elicited her affection. Her laughter, that cold, detached tinkle, confirmed her decision regarding this mystery person or thing. She stopped talking, still on the phone, lying languidly on our bed with her back to the door. Her ankles crossed casually in the air, as if she held no worry in the world. I remained rooted, my ears straining, heart thundering within me. Her voice barely above a whisper, each word was clear to me. Yes, I understand, but it's difficult to express. He doesn't provoke any emotion in me when we touch. It's more like enduring the contact. You comprehend? It's not. Stimulating. A brief silence followed, then another soft, knowing chuckle. Indeed, I desire him. I must tread carefully. He's no fool. Exhaling slowly through my nose, I attempted to suppress the anger rising within me. The words themselves weren't the issue. It was her tone, so casual, so detached. A hint of smugness in her confidence, as if she wasn't just rejecting me, but already moving on, laughing at me. My fingers tightened around the glass. For a moment, I felt an urge to storm in there and demand answers. Who was she talking to? What did "be careful" mean? But then, a chill ran through me. A confrontation wouldn't alter anything. It wouldn't undo what I had just heard. No, I needed a different strategy. She no longer wished for my embrace. Very well, she wouldn't have to. She didn't respond emotionally when I touched her. Understood. Dear friends, if you enjoy this story, please like and subscribe to our channel. It will motivate us to make more videos like this for you. From now on, she won't experience my touch anymore. She considered me as a thoughtless and conventional man, either prone to wrath or tearful appeals for her affection. She had no inkling of my capabilities. Therefore, I did something I never envisioned doing. I turned around, walked back down the hall, placed my water glass on the counter, and allowed her words to seep into my mind like a lethal poison. From that instant, my wife ceased to exist for me. She desired distance. She was about to learn what it means to experience soul-crushing separation in its truest form. And when the opportunity presented itself, she would remorse having taken me for granted. She was unaware of this fact yet. The power of silence lies in its ability to be the most potent weapon globally. I didn't shout, I didn't weep, I didn't debate. I merely stopped. Stopped asking about her day. Stopped trying to connect with her. Stopped exerting effort. I became a phantom within my home. And initially, she remained oblivious. For a couple of days, she was engrossed in her personal bubble, texting, humming to herself while getting ready for work, and seemingly oblivious to my state. Assuming I was tired, preoccupied, or in one of those unexplained moods men sometimes slip into. Ideal. She had no inkling of what was going on. At dinners, I ate mechanically, barely conversing. She seldom looked up from her plate. At night, when she usually snuggled next to me, I shifted, leaving a chilly gap. She didn't utter a word, not until a week had passed. "Hey," she said one morning as I stood at the sink washing my coffee cup. "Are you all right?" I turned subtly, met her gaze, and offered a smile. Yes. Why wouldn't I be? It was a genuine smile, but not the usual affectionate kind. There was no warmth to it. She blinked. "I can't tell. You've been silent." I shrugged nonchalantly. "Just deep in thought. That's all." She paused, expecting more details from me, but none came. Instead, I moved past her, grabbed my keys, and departed for work, letting her ponder. Let her experience the same confusion I once felt in that hallway. Upon hearing my wife say she no longer desired physical affection from me, the first small wounds began to form. It was the minor actions that affected her first. She used to relish movie nights with me. We'd cuddle on the couch, share a blanket, and watch whatever she preferred. So when I found her something already playing on our usual night without her presence, I noticed a glimmer of shock cross her face. "You started without me?" she inquired. I nodded. "I didn't think you'd care." I chose not to pause the movie or make room for her. Instead, she stood there briefly before sitting at the opposite end of the couch, uncomfortable and tense. "I see," was all I said the next day when I returned home late, later than usual. She was waiting. "Where were you?" she questioned from the kitchen counter, her arms folded. I indifferently placed my keys on the table. "I'm leaving." "With whom?" "Just some acquaintances." Her eyebrows furrowed more deeply. "Acquaintances." I met her eyes with an unyielding expression. "Yes, acquaintances." Then I walked away, allowing her mind to conjure images. For the first time in a while, a hint of apprehension flashed across her eyes. Fear, uncertainty. She wasn't accustomed to being disregarded. She was accustomed to me caring, asking, vying for her attention. Yet I refused to continue that charade. If she wanted me to be a mere backdrop in her life, so be it. She could experience the stillness. Her vulnerabilities gradually emerged. The true transformation occurred 2 weeks later. By then, I wasn't merely quiet, I was absent. Although physically present, my emotional and mental absence became palpable. I navigated around her as though she were furniture, spoke in brief, polite sentences, never initiating discourse, and eventually, she began to fracture. "Would you like to dine out tonight?" she proposed one evening, attempting to keep it light. "No." She hesitated. "Perhaps we could visit the restaurant you mentioned earlier this month." I looked at her. This was a test. She wanted to gauge if I still valued our time together, if I would eagerly accept an opportunity for a delightful evening, trying to regain her favor. I didn't. "I'm not particularly interested," I replied. Then I returned to my book. The following morning, she gently touched my arm as I was dressing. I winced slightly, not excessively, just enough for her to notice, enough for her to feel the rejection that had been creeping into our home. She withdrew, as if scalded. This was the first real crack. She was beginning to feel the burden of my absence, the start of her desperation. A few nights later, I heard her in the kitchen, scrubbing the counters fiercely. A nervous habit. Then she did something unexpected. She took a bottle of wine and 2 glasses, went into the living room, and placed them on the coffee table. I looked up from my phone. "What's that?" I asked. She offered a tentative grin, suggested we share a drink. It had been a while since we last did so. She was making an effort, trying to repair something that she didn't recognize she had shattered until it was past repairing. I glanced at the wine, then at her. Then I stood up. "I think I'll call it a night," I said, yawning. Her expression fell, not drastically, but enough. I noticed the flicker of disappointment. The panic swiftly concealed. I departed, leaving her there, solitary, with 2 glasses of wine she would now drink by herself. And that was when I realized. She was beginning to comprehend, starting to feel it. The loneliness, the void, the gradual, stifling awareness that she was no longer unique, that my thoughts didn't dwell on her, that I could endure entire days without contemplating her, and it was tormenting her. That night, as I lay in bed, I listened to the quiet click of cabinet doors closing as she put away the wine glasses. For the first time in a while, I slept peacefully. From that point on, the beginning was just the start. It unfolded sooner than expected. Her unease became evident. Fissures in her meticulously crafted disinterest. A prolonged gaze. A question asked twice due to inattentiveness. Overwhelmed by her own remorse. Unaccustomed to being neglected, yet she remained oblivious to my knowledge. That changed 3 weeks later when I overheard her discussing her reluctance to hug me anymore. 3 weeks later, the truth was confirmed. An affair. The moment it struck me. She had been cautious, but not discreet enough. One evening, as I lay in bed scrolling through my phone, a notification appeared on her screen while she was in the bathroom, a preview of a single message. "Tonight was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you." The sender was simply identified as M. I fixated on it. My pulse didn't race. I had anticipated it. This was merely verification. She emerged from the bathroom, toweling her hair, oblivious to the phone's glow. She hadn't noticed its light flicker. I remained silent, but within me there was a change. Until then, I had been engaging in a drawn-out game, psychological detachment, allowing her to experience the burden of her own decisions. But now I possessed ammunition. Now it was the right moment to shatter her. The initial blow was coming. The following morning, I feigned illness and stayed home from work. She departed for her office, bestowing a casual kiss as if nothing were out of the ordinary. I waited exactly 20 minutes before I booted up my computer and embarked on my plan. Step 1. Identify who M was. It didn't take long to decipher this mystery. A cursory glance at our phone records revealed a pattern, the same number repeated, usually late at night. Then I cross-checked her social media. Though private, people can be careless. They adhere to routines. And there he was, Michael, an associate of some sort at a firm she worked with. Suave in an overly polished, insincere manner. A man who appeared to consider himself invincible. I perused his profile, scrutinizing his meticulously crafted lifestyle. The extravagant holidays, the bespoke clothing, the self-satisfied grin of a man convinced he was victorious. I almost chuckled. He had no idea that the rules had been rewritten. Gathering proof. In the following days, I transformed into both a specter and a predator. I did what she thought I couldn't do. I trailed their communications. I followed her once, maintaining a discreet distance as she worked late at an upscale hotel. I even installed a small GPS tracker under her vehicle. It wasn't illegal, just a straightforward Bluetooth device that allowed me to monitor her movements. And the decisive factor, I employed a private investigator, for I wasn't merely planning on revealing them. I was aiming to annihilate them. It took less than a week for the pie to provide me with everything I required. Photographs, messages, even video footage of them entering and exiting the same hotel room. I possessed everything, and in that instant, I could have exposed her, flung the proof at her, seen her falter and plead for mercy, caught her ensnared in her deception. Yet, it would have been effortless. She had taken years to dismantle our union. I intended to take an equal amount of time to retaliate. The stage was set. The eve before my strike, she did something unforeseen. She settled beside me on the couch, intimate, as if attempting to mend the chasm she had created. "Hey," she whispered timidly. I gazed at her, expression blank. "Yeah," she hesitated, then bit her lip. "I feel like we've been distant recently." She dared to utter such a thing. "Perhaps," I replied, indifferent. She sighed. "I don't want us to grow apart." "Grow apart? We were already kilometers apart, my love. You just hadn't grasped it yet. So, I did something hurtful." I smiled gently, soothingly, the way I used to, and I said, "Neither do I." Her shoulders loosened. She appeared relieved. She seemed victorious, assumed she'd secured my allegiance again. Unbeknownst to her, the next day would bring unimaginable turmoil. The disclosure. I timed it perfectly. She was preparing for bed when I made my move. In the bathroom, brushing her teeth, I left the envelope on her pillow. Inside were all the texts, photos, screenshots, and lies. She re-entered the room, humming softly, then halted. Her eyes darted to the envelope, then to me. "What's this?" she asked, her voice strained. I remained silent, merely watching. She retrieved the envelope. Her hand shook as she opened it. She began flipping through the pictures and texts, confronting undeniable evidence of her deceit. Her breath shallow, lips parted, yet words failed to escape. Finally, she looked at me, her face ashen. "Where did you—" She started, but her voice cracked and trailed off. She knew it was unnecessary. I'd caught her, leaving her utterly, helplessly exposed. I slouched forward, placing my forearms on my legs, allowing the quiet to linger. Then I offered a chilling smile, that of a victor. "You no longer need to embrace me," I stated softly, almost tenderly. "There's no need for pretense. You are now liberated." She hesitated, perhaps to refute, perhaps to entreat, but I waved her off. "I won't argue with you, or shout, or inquire as to the reason." I allowed the message to penetrate, let her grasp its gravity, since I no longer cared. The decisive blow, the fatal shot. She gasped audibly, eyes moistening, her grip on the envelope firming, believing it might shield her from the tempest she had provoked. She anticipated wrath, a confrontation, perhaps pleas of desperation. Instead, she encountered unyielding indifference, and that shattered her. For in that instant, she realized she had lost me already. Remorse is a gradual toxin. It doesn't strike swiftly. It persists, corrupts, expanding until it devours all. The instant my wife beheld the proof, the instant her breath caught, her hands trembled, and her face lost color. It had started. The decay, the remorse, the gradual, unavoidable deterioration of the life she believed was still hers, and I was about to witness every moment of it. The early signs of desperation. She initially tried to conceal it. I could observe her brain whirring, seeking a means of escape, a deception to mask her actions. "Hold on," she stuttered, waving the envelope as if it could erase its contents. "This isn't, you don't comprehend. It's not what you think." I chuckled. A genuine, heartfelt chuckle. She recoiled at the sound. "Not what it looks like," I repeated, shaking my head. "Don't mislead us both." Her mouth opened, then shut. She realized there was no escape from this predicament, so she switched strategies. She softened her gaze, let her voice quiver, as if she had suddenly become a helpless victim. "It was a blunder," she murmured. "I wasn't being mindful. I never intended to harm you, I assure you." I cocked my head, pretending innocence. "How often then?" She stiffened. I prolonged the silence, allowing it to weigh on her. I could sense her considering a lie, but she had to understand that if I knew this much, I likely knew everything else. Her lip quivered. "For quite some time," she confessed, almost inaudible. "For quite some time." That duration held weight. I was already aware, but hearing it from her, seeing the guilt mar her features, made it tangible. I nodded solemnly. "For quite some time of errors. That's remarkable." Her eyes were glazed now. It wasn't like that. She attempted again, moving towards me, attempting to grasp my hand. I retreated, a mere step, but it was significant. Her entire body tensed. At that moment, it truly struck her. I remained indifferent. I didn't shout. I didn't plead. I didn't try to keep anything. Her silent treatment was more chilling than any rage I had anticipated. Her frosty demeanor shattered her. For the subsequent days, I displayed unyielding apathy. No departures, no debates, no responses. Merely coexisting with her cold, detached, inaccessible presence. And she loathed it. Initially, she endeavored to clarify matters, sought opportunities to be close to me, perhaps believing we could mend the damage she had inflicted. She prepared my coffee each morning. I discarded it. She asked if I wished for dinner. I opted for a solo takeout. She attempted to sit next to me on the couch, as if nothing was amiss. I rose and vacated the room. Every minor rejection left a deeper wound. She expected anger, shouting, name-calling, demands for answers. But there were none of those, because she wasn't valuable enough. And I ensured she felt it. The instant her spirit cracked. A week post-revelation, one evening, I heard sobs echoing from the kitchen. Not feigned cries seeking empathy, but genuine tears. I remained in the living room, feigning ignorance via my phone. She was collapsing, mere steps away from me. I stood idly by. Eventually, she erupted. She marched into the living room, disheveled hair and swollen eyes, voice quivering with fury. "Aren't you going to ignore me forever?" she bellowed. I lifted my gaze, meeting hers, and smirked in response. Yes, just one word. It was enough. Her entire body stiffened as if struck physically. "Why can't you yell at me?" she demanded. "Why won't you rage? React. Do something." I put down my phone, leaning forward. "You don't deserve my anger," I said softly. "You don't merit my time. You mean nothing to me." Tears welled in her eyes. Foolish, I thought. She believed I wouldn't leave. I completed her thoughts for her. "You believed I'd be perpetually present, that despite the myriad of untruths and nights spent with another, I'd remain a fool's constant companion." Gulping hard, her breath trembled. "You erred." I sighed gently, nodding. "Indeed, you did." That was at the instant she acknowledged defeat, Not just our marriage, not merely me, but herself as the walls encroached upon her. For 2 more weeks, I maintained silence, allowing her time to attempt reeling me in, enduring her existence within the debris she had constructed. Then I enacted my final strategy. I gathered my belongings. Not everything, merely the necessities enough for her to perceive that I wouldn't return. Upon returning home that evening, she found me securing the last bag. She stood frozen in the doorway, eyes wide. "Wait," I didn't halt. "Where are you going?" Her voice was small. I remained unresponsive. She approached cautiously, her hands trembling. "Can we merely discuss something?" I gathered my bag, placed it on my shoulder, and at long last met her gaze. A familiar, detached smile graced my lips, the same one I bestowed upon her, the evening I handed her the envelope. She had read it then, and I moved past her without a second glance. She didn't chase after me. She knew. There was no more to say, and as I exited through that door into a future devoid of her, I felt only contentment. She desired solitude. She yearned for excitement. She sought freedom from my embrace. Now she possessed everything she requested, and it was the harshest retribution I could have ever inflicted upon her. This is a specter that never fades. It lingers in the silence. It reverberates in the voids where love once resided. It chokes the atmosphere, making each breath feel more burdensome than the last. And my former wife was being suffocated by it. I ensured as much, presenting her with the initial taste of her new life. I didn't merely depart that night. I vanished from her existence, blocked her contacts, ignored emails, didn't acknowledge acquaintances when they attempted to connect with her. I transformed into a specter, a man she once knew, a man she once loved, and now a man she can never reclaim. She chose her course, and I allowed her to walk it solo, enduring the public backlash. The repercussions didn't take long to pursue her. Her affair wasn't merely exposed to me. I ensured that everyone knew her family, her friends, her coworkers. I forwarded the proof to Michael's wife, who swiftly destroyed his world. Their secret relationship crumbled. Michael's wife filed for divorce promptly, and from what I understand, she took everything she could. My ex soon understood that her affair partner had no intention of settling down with a woman bereft of prospects. They managed to last only 2 weeks after my departure. Then he vanished too, leaving her utterly alone. The coup de grace, months elapsed, I had progressed. I obtained my own space, initiating a fresh chapter with novel habits and tranquility, shaping a life uniquely mine. One night, a message arrived from her. Having discovered a means to contact me, she requested a conversation. I fixated on my phone, repeatedly reading the text. "Is there something we can discuss? I simply require your presence." I almost chuckled. Her approach was foreseeable. She had played her game and lost. Exchanging a decent man for fleeting excitement, she now sought to reverse it, to rewrite history, to salvage the wreckage. However, the nature of burnt bridges is that they do not regenerate. I chose silence, refraining from even typing a single character. Instead, I blocked her number, leaving her to dwell in remorse, to live with her decisions, because my victory was already secured, and she would spend the remainder of her life knowing this. Some claim revenge tastes best when cold. However, this surpassed revenge. This was justice. She had staked everything and forfeited. The most unfortunate aspect was that she could only fault herself. Meanwhile, I departed unscathed.